What's going on out there, everyone? It's your boy Tommy on the spot. Welcome to another edition of Disney 101. On the other side of, I guess, the United States, down in Orlando, Florida, is my main man, Steve. Steve, how are you doing today?
I'm doing magical as always, living it up during my summer break, right in the middle of it right now. So, just hanging out.
Yeah, you definitely look refreshed and ready to go. And it is officially summer. It is the sleep-deprived edition of Disney 101 for me. I was up very late. I planned on coming out and doing a whole Olaf routine as it's simply being, summer and maybe doing a little song and a dance and everything. I was ready to go. Then I, just been tired. So unfortunately, you're going to have to wait till next time for me to pull out my summer song. But we'll do it. But it's just not going to be today. But yes, happy summer to everybody out there. How hot right now is it down in Orlando?
That's a good question. I didn't check before we came on, but I would say by now it's probably in the mid 80s.
Gotcha. But then with the humidity, it probably feels like worse, right?
It probably feels like about 120 outside.
There you go. Nice. That's always fun. That's always. We had actually done, and big thanks again to Adam Zweibel. We got some great feedback over on his episode last week or a week or two ago of Disney 101 when he came on. And talked about his trip down there, and he talked a little bit about the heat. And we are actually going to be doing, not today, but soon, an episode on a couple tips to beat the heat down in Florida. It's something that there's something that really goes into when you go and you plan a trip. A lot of people can go down to Disney during the summer, but the humidity is a lot. Isn't that right?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's definitely it's something to prepare for. Absolutely. Knowing that you're going to be coming down in the middle of the summer, especially if you are from somewhere where you're not used to this kind of environment.
Absolutely. And then we also recently have done a two-part Marvel unboxing series, unboxing the Marvel Blu-ray box sets for Phase 1 and Phase 2. So big thanks to Joe Loftus for coming on and doing those with us and, kind of dedicating his time for us to do that. And we've got some great feedback on those as well. Did you get a chance to check those out, Steve?
Of course. Yeah, I just love how much Joe loves all of that stuff. So
yeah.
To see him do it and then to see you watching along with it, I get a kick out of people getting really excited about stuff. So.
Yeah, most of the feedback, I feel like I echoed because I didn't know what was in those sets. I feel like I echoed a lot of the comments that we got about that, of just the sheer amount of stuff that they included in those box sets. And I'm sure the Phase 3, and Phase 3 is now ending with Spider-Man, right?
So, well, I think that was the end of all the phases, and this is the kicking off. Or maybe, I guess, I don't know. It's more of like I feel like Endgame was the end of all of that stuff. So I think it's weird because there's a weird layover where
right.
You could probably consider it still Phase 3. You could even consider it the start of Phase 4 because it is the first post-Endgame movie to come out. And it's the first movie to happen chronologically after Endgame. So, it really kind of depends on your point of view.
Yeah. But so when that one comes out, I'm sure it'll just be just as epic. And we just passed over here on Disney 101, 200 subscribers. So thank you guys so much for checking out what we're doing over here. That is super cool and really appreciate it. And, again, thanks to everyone who follows us over on Twitter at Disney 101 Pod, over on Instagram at Disney 101 Pod, and over here at youtube.com/Disney 101 Pod. So it's awesome that you guys have been checking out what we've been doing, and it's always fun to interact with all of you guys there. And that's what we're going to do today. We're going to get into a lot of the big stories that have been going on really over the last week or two, I'd say. Kind of starting with this story that came out from I think it was a couple days ago, and it's a story from Cinema Blend that came out that basically said that my favorite attraction in all the Magic Kingdom, the Country Bear Jamboree, it looks like it's going away by the time for the pretty much imminently. Is it already gone?
I don't believe it's gone yet.
But it looks like it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it looks like it's going to happen. Obviously, this is all for Disney's big anniversary that's coming up. They want to have, I think they want to try, because it's 50th anniversary, the idea is they want to have 50 new attractions / experiences that people can experience in the parks for that 50th anniversary. And in doing so, they are getting rid of the country Jamboree, which is a real shame in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing about, I think the thing is that there's a lot of different reasons why people are so kind of up in arms about this. And the fact that, number one, the Country Bear Jamboree was an opening day attraction. So this was it was one of the first ever attractions to open up in Walt Disney World and Disneyland as well. Disneyland actually closed it, I believe, in like 2001. So it's been a while since Disneyland hasn't had Country Bear Jamboree. Okay. But it was an opening day attraction for Walt Disney World. So, whenever one of those attractions goes away, it's a very bittersweet moment, because on the one hand, it is a very, as much as people love it and it has a huge cult following, it is kind of an antiquated attraction.
Right.
And going along with the basically the mandate that Bob Chapek sent down of, at first it was kind of like he wants more, IPs, intellectual properties, throughout the park, which are going to be basically, I don't want to say unoriginal attractions, but attractions based on movies and TV shows and other, bigger things. So think basically any Disney movie, any Disney character, or anything that Disney owns, like Star Wars, or Marvel, or 20th Century Fox characters, or anything like that, is basically up for grabs at this point to become an attraction. Right.
Yeah. I mean, and it's really, and I get the idea of why they want to do it. Now, for me personally, growing up, Country Bear Jamboree was always the attraction we always went to, sometimes 2-3 times, because it was air conditioning. So you'd go to the attraction, as kids, we hated it. It was, why are we going to this attraction? Like, what is this? Like, we didn't understand what was going on. We didn't get the idea behind the Country Bear Jamboree at all. And then fast forward to 2012, and I'll share the story that Steve knows very well. I was dating a young lady who at one point was upset about something and let out a big, your friends remind me of the Country Bear Jamboree. And I said, that's weird. I don't remember anything about the Country Bear Jamboree other than it's just an air-conditioned attraction. And then, lo and behold, time passes. The next year, I'm done with her. The next year, we go to the parks, and I'm just like, Country Bear Jamboree is incredible. Like, I want my friends to be like these guys. These guys are just having a good time. They're kicking back. They're having some, moonshine, and they're just enjoying the heck out of everything. And I think they really fit in well with the Frontierland attraction.
Yeah. And I mean, that's not to say that this attraction that's proposed, which is going to be a Woody's Roundup marionette and audio animatronic show, something along those lines. And it's not to say that that isn't going to fit the theming of Frontierland, which it definitely is. It's just that I think it's the idea of this thing that started all the way back with Maelstrom, which was the ride in Norway that was replaced by Frozen. And a lot of people are up in arms about that, because you're taking an original attraction, an original, completely 100% made up attraction that fit the theming of the country, Norway, that respected all of the culture and heritage and told a lot of, Nordic stories and all that stuff, and replaced it with, number one, an intellectual property, number two, a property that was set up in a fictional land, being Arendelle. It's not an actual place, all to kind of appease, this Frozen mania that had been sweeping us and still kind of is continuing with Frozen 2 later this year. So I think that a lot of people were kind of seeing that as a sign of the times and a sign of things are going to be changing. And this is going to be happening more and more. So you kind of have to get used to it. And this is just, I feel like, just a continuation of that, of an original attraction being replaced with something that's a little bit more recognizable. Because if you walked up to anybody in the street and said, hey, do you know what the Country Bear Jamboree is? I'd be like, oh, Maybe, I think that's the kind of ride that's kind of like Chuck E. Cheese, right? Or if you walk up to someone random and say, "Hey, do you know what Toy Story is?" You're going to get a lot better response.
Right. Right. Yeah. No. And I mean, I personally don't. I like the Frozen attraction. It's fine, but I don't think it really belongs in the World Showcase. I feel like that World Showcase there, you're going through all these places that are all authentic to the countries, and you have the cast members that come from the countries. You have the food from the countries, all the different pieces. When we went, one of Erica's cousins bought like a samurai sword from the China place and got that shipped to his house. And that's what you want to do when you go to these places. And yeah, there's a couple of characters that, Princess Jasmine's in Morocco and it kind of works, but like, that's fine. It's not like she's taking away from anything there. And then in the middle of everything, you have a Frozen attraction. And like, that's the only, yes, Donald and the Three Caballeros, but that's very related to Mexico. That's, the whole ride is going through Mexico. So to me, it doesn't really, when I was there, I was like, an okay attraction, but really feels like it sticks out like a sore thumb. And it's just like, I don't even feel like the clientele that goes to the World Showcase would even be that interested in Frozen. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, and that I would say that it's still interested in Frozen. It's still one of the longest lines. But I agree with the fact that it doesn't fit because
Right.
it's not a real place. Like imagine if all of a sudden there was, some sort of Pokemon attraction in Japan, like that's set somewhere in one of the Pokemon lands. And it's like, oh, but it's Japanese. And it's like, but it's not the same thing. Like,
Right.
And it is set somewhere in supposedly Northern Europe, so somewhere in a Nordic country, but it's not a real place. So and the whole thing about Epcot is it's about the World Showcase is about actual real countries and being able to actually go and immerse yourself in that country's culture. And Frozen has absolutely nothing to do with Norwegian culture. So
Right. Yeah. No. It's definitely weird, and while it is, I feel like that something they did do with Epcot was it did bring an entire audience that probably wasn't at Epcot over to Epcot, because you had a bunch of people who are more probably going to the Magic Kingdom now, making sure they go to Epcot, if for nothing else, than for the Frozen attraction.
Yeah, and it did help in the long run, and it helped kind of relieve the stress that Test Track and Soarin' were placed on and that kind of thing, especially when Soarin' went down for the refurbishment that changed around the show and added an extra theater and all those things, and it so definitely helped alleviate that. But all the same, it started this precedent of replacing original attractions with intellectual properties, and it's unfortunately, to quote the aforementioned gone Maelstrom, it was not the first attraction, nor will it be the last attraction to suffer that kind of fate, as we see with Country Bear Jamboree.
Yeah, no, it's definitely, and it's something where now is this one. This is when does it look like this is going to be happening?
So it doesn't really give anything that I've read doesn't really give a date on when it's going to be closing. All it says is that they're hoping that it's going to be ready by October 1st, 2021, which would be the kickoff of the 50th anniversary.
Gotcha. Yeah, and that would be the Woody's Roundup, which is pretty much, Woody's Roundup, wasn't that basically just from Toy Story 2, the fictional television show that they described how Woody met Jessie?
Kind of. It described why, kind of like why Woody is a toy to begin with, and it gave Woody as a character in this world a little bit of background. We kind of knew Buzz Lightyear, and we're not really sure if Buzz Lightyear, the toy, preceded the video games and the cartoon and stuff like that. It seemed like it was very much a marketing ploy one way or the other.
Right.
But that they know that there's this Buzz Lightyear TV show and Buzz Lightyear video game and all that stuff. And it was a similar thing where there was this kids show, Woody's Roundup, that was a marionette-based show that had all these hijinks and everything like that set in the Wild West. And along with that, there was all this merchandise and all this stuff. And along with that came Jessie and the Prospector, Stinky Pete, and Woody as action figures.
Gotcha. Well, so I guess where would you see, you know, this does sound like a cool deal. I personally am not the biggest. I don't need an attraction dedicated to Woody's past, but I understand that people are going to be into it because it's Toy Story, and Toy Story is very popular, and I like Toy Story. But where would you know if you had to choose? You can only have one. Would you want this new attraction, or would you like them to keep the Country Bear Jamboree?
It's tough because I'm part of me wants to choose the Country Bear Jamboree over principal, just because it is, there's all this nostalgia with it. It's an opening day attraction. It has a huge cult following. All of these things. But on the other hand, like, it's kind of that situation of, like Figment, for example. Figment, it has a huge following. He is all of the merchandise and everything like that. But the attraction isn't what it used to be. Certainly, it's not the first, generation of Figment attraction, and in its current iteration, it's not really all that good or exciting. So when you hear Figment going away and being replaced with something, it's kind of like, oh yeah, like that sounds really cool. With Country Bear Jamboree, it's like, hey, we're taking away this opening day attraction, but we're replacing it with Toy Story, like a Toy Story themed ride, which a lot of people are probably excited about because it's something new, which people are always kind of interested in, especially at the Magic Kingdom, and it sounds like they can do it right. And I'm sure that when, they're announcing it far enough in advance where it's not going to be a rush job, hopefully. So hopefully the attraction does come out and it's clean and polished and all that. I just, it's the two sides of my brain are really fighting against each other, where it's like, keep this opening day attraction, but new and shiny. So it's like, it's tough.
Right. Yeah. No, for me, it's more of a situation where, a couple of different things. Number one, I also do think it's a little weird to have another Toy Story attraction in the Magic Kingdom when you have Toy Story Land in Hollywood Studios. So that's a little like, isn't it a little schizophrenic in terms of like, you have this land that's dedicated to all things Toy Story, and now you're opening another Toy Story attraction, and it's not in the land.
That is true, yeah, and again, kind of going back to the theming of Frontierland, if you were to take away the fact that Toy Story is an intellectual property, take away that, the Marionette Wild West show fits the theming.
Yeah, well, that is true.
And if you take away the fact that it's not, if you were to just say, if Woody's Roundup were an opening day attraction, take away any relation to Toy Story, take away anything to the bigger picture, Pixar, anything, you just take away and come up with a pitch and say, this is it's an audio animatronic show, but the audio animatronics are all going to basically be essentially Wild West marionette figures. It sounds like an interesting concept. And it sounds like something that could have been an opening day attraction. So as long as they keep with that theming and they don't introduce anything with, Buzz or any other sort of relation to Toy Story in and of itself, I feel like it can work. And I feel like it would fit the theming and everything because, it's just, you could argue the same thing about the Buzz Lightyear ride in Tomorrowland, where you say, well, you have all of this other Toy Story stuff at Hollywood Studios. Why do we need Buzz Lightyear in Tomorrowland? But it fits the theming of, it's tough because the original incarnation of Magic Kingdom as it was did not have a lot of intellectual property rights. One, because there wasn't a lot of IPs to begin with at that time. We're talking early 70s. So they didn't really have, there was no Beauty and the Beast. There was no, Lion King or Aladdin or Little Mermaid or, half of the other attractions that there are now. So you had to rely on brand new stuff. That's where we got Pirates of the Caribbean and Haunted Mansion and, all of the other attractions that preceded all of this. So it's kind of tough to say, well, looking back at opening day, there wasn't a lot of that kind of stuff when there wasn't as much property to base things on.
That's a good point. Yeah, no, I mean, that's a really good point. And it's something where, for me, I get back to, do you feel like the entire Country Bears are gone? Like, Do you think Liver Lips McGraw's, character spot is going to be gone as well, or do you think they'll still have that and keep them ingrained in the parks?
I feel like they'll probably still have it where you can the characters are out. If anything, they might even have there's always a chance that they could have a more pronounced presence as streetmosphere characters, if you will, to kind of make up for the fact that there won't be the attraction anymore. And there's nothing to say that 5 or 6 years down the line they switch back, because I'm sure all of this stuff is going to be kept.
Right. That's a good point.
It's tough because it seems from what I'm reading, it sounds like it's going to be more of a reimagining and less of an overlay, because they've done overlays before where they've swapped set pieces out and that kind of thing, but it could be that maybe the stage will be kept and that's about it.
Oh, okay. I mean, I agree. For me, it gets back to the idea of you're going to one of the main reasons I think a lot of adults go to Disney World, certainly the Magic Kingdom, is for that nostalgia piece, for saying, hey, I rode this ride with my grandparents who are deceased, or I went on this attraction back in the day with, when I was your age, when they're talking to their kids. And so having a lot of these attractions, because remember, Spaceship Earth too is going away and being reimagined, or it's still not going away, but
it's
right. Which I get, because it's actually a pretty dated attraction, and I understand the idea of kind of bringing that up.
Yeah, and the whole idea behind that was that it was going to be constantly updated, like that original last scene with the computers and everything, and there's a couple of other pieces towards the end that weren't originally there. So like the whole thing with PCs and stuff, like when it first came out in the 80s, that whole thing really wasn't a thing. So
right, exactly. That's a good point. But yeah, so I mean, how many more opening day attractions are there even left?
That's a good question, because I know also I don't think the Speedway was an opening day attraction, but I know it was close to it. Let's take a look.
That is one that we could go and get reimagined at this point. I feel like the Speedway. I don't know why. I mean, I get it. Tomorrowland Speedway is a big deal and all, but I always feel like once they brought in Test Track, that made Tomorrowland Speedway kind of a not necessary to have anymore type deal.
Yeah, and a couple of people try and make an argument, but my whole thing about the Tomorrowland Speedway has always been that in the land of tomorrow, in the future, where anything is possible and we have all of these spaceships and everything, we are riding around in diesel-powered go-karts. That doesn't seem right to me.
It doesn't. You're right about that.
So, opening day attractions for October 1st, 1971, Country Bear Jamboree.
All right.
There are a few other ones, but I'm not going to necessarily count some of these. Like the Dapper Dans on Main Street. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily consider that an attraction, but Dumbo, the Flying Elephant.
Really? Okay.
The Hall of Presidents.
Okay. Obviously, that's updated every year. Every 4 years.
Yeah.
8 years.
Haunted Mansion.
Really? Okay.
It's a Small World.
Okay.
Jungle Cruise.
Really? Okay.
Mad Tea Party. Peter Pan's Flight.
Wow. Okay.
Prince Charming Regal Carousel.
One of my favorites.
Snow White's Scary Adventures.
Which isn't there anymore.
Nope.
Gotcha.
Swiss Family Treehouse.
Is that still there? It is, right?
It is.
Okay.
Tomorrowland Speedway. The Walt Disney World Railroad.
My favorite. My absolute favorite.
And Walt Disney's Enchanted Tiki Room.
The Tiki Room's been around since the opening. Wow. All right. So, I mean, Dumbo was reimagined in terms of them adding a second one.
Yeah. I mean, that was, with your reimagining of the expansion of Fantasyland and adding the Storybook Circus area and, like all of that getting reimagined and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So.
But Dumbo, I mean, that used to also be because the ride line was like insane.
Yeah, and that's the thing where between that and they're like, hey, well, we have this opportunity to expand everything. Let's try and kind of do a little bit better this time. So we're going to add the two Dumbos. We're going to make a virtual queue and like a little play area wait time and like do it up and that kind of stuff, which is cool. And then things like Pirates of the Caribbean was added a couple years later. Space Mountain wasn't added until 1975, along with the Carousel of Progress and the People Mover and stuff. So
I really thought People Mover was for sure one of them that was there, but I guess not.
I believe it was an opening attraction at Disneyland.
And they've updated that too, obviously.
It's not the track is still there, but it's not an operating attraction anymore at Disneyland.
Oh, you're right. Wow. Well, they've updated the one in Tomorrowland and Walt Disney World because they've had to in order to add things like they're talking about Buzz Lightyear's spin.
Yeah, they've added, and Monsters Inc. and that kind of stuff, and Stitches Great Escape, and they've redone like the audio and stuff. But as far as the track itself and where it goes, it used to go through those other attractions that used to be there.
Oh wow, very cool. Yeah, no, I think that's a good. So there is still a lot of opening day attractions. I didn't realize there was actually a whole. Like, I did not realize Peter Pan was there from the start, or Mad Tea Party was there from the start. So there are actually there are still many attractions that are still there, but it still is tough that some of these are going away.
Yeah, really. The Country Bear Jamboree really would only be the second to completely go away, because Tiki Room, it had gone away because there was an actual legitimate fire in the Tiki Room, and that's why it was like they had gone through like an under new management thing, which was a show with Iago and Zazu from Aladdin and Lion King respectively, and then while that was going on, they actually had to go back and redo it, so now it looks more closely resembling to the opening day ride. But Snow White Scary Adventures really is the only one on that list that is completely, absolutely gone, aside from like the fireworks shows and the parades and stuff. Like there was a Fantasy in the Sky fireworks, and there was a parade, and there were actually two parades. There was an afternoon parade and an evening parade, which neither of which is obviously around anymore. The
afternoon parade's gone too?
Well, the original Magic Kingdom afternoon parade.
Oh, right.
There's the the Festival of Fantasy parade that goes on now, not Santa's. The one
that makes sense.
The only one that's really that being said, the only one that's really gone is Snow White Scary Adventures,
which is still in Disneyland.
I don't think it is.
It was last time we were there. When we were there in October, we went on it.
It is, yeah.
And Eric is very afraid of it. That's why I know.
A lot of people are. Well,
when I was a kid, forget it. That was a automatic skip. We went on it one time, and I was like, absolutely not. And now to this day, I go with Eri, and if ever the lights are on in the ride, I take a look at her, and she's covered in her face, and it's definitely one that she's not a huge fan of, but we go on it because of the nostalgia piece of it. But I guess there are still a good amount of opening day attractions, and who knows, maybe Woody's Roundup will. Certainly Woody's Roundup is something that will appeal more to kids that go to the parks these days, I feel like.
Yeah, if you were to go to a kid, hey kid, do you want to go on the Country Bear Jamboree? Again, They would have the same exact response as you did when you were a child. Like, what is that? Yeah. No. And when you get there, it's like, we're at Chuck E. Cheese.
Right. And it does also feel like when you go on the attraction now, even though I love it, it's never any wait. Because usually, the folks there are geared, slanted a little older. By a little older, I mean quite a bit a little older. So maybe it is time to change things up. And if you're watching along here with us, let us know in the comment section how you're feeling about this. Obviously, the big hashtag that's going around right now is the hashtag Save the Jamboree. But maybe you guys are ready for a change. Maybe you guys think, hey, we are interested to see kind of where they go from there. And I'm not sure. Do we know if this is the final Toy Story?
From what I've heard, it is, but we also thought that Toy Story 3 was the last one. So at this point,
well, because my first thought when I first heard about this was maybe this attraction gives us a spin-off show either for Disney Plus when that comes out, or even a full length movie about Woody's Roundup if it does well enough, and there's enough interest in it.
I don't know. I don't know if there's enough there to make a movie out of it, but anything is possible at this point.
I mean, I didn't think there was enough to make an attraction. I thought like it was like a little thing and like, all right. But, at the same time, it's the type of thing where like when I first heard about it, I was like, they could make it into a kind of like how Goofy's Wild Wild West show is. Turn into like you could sit down and eat something while you're there too, and make it like a paid attraction type thing like that you can do.
They already have that, and it's called the Hoopy Doo Musical Review.
Which I think you do mention whenever I say they should bring something like that to Walt Disney World, but neither here nor there. Anything else you wanted to touch on here before we move on to our next topic that's on the board?
I mean that was a lot about the Country Bear Jamboree.
It was. Well, you knew it was gonna be when you sent me that link. You knew, oh boy.
I was ready for it.
Yeah, we'll have to shelve the preparing for the heat to beat the heat in Disney World because this is going to be, old Tots is going to go in on this Country Bear Jamboree story. But one of the other attractions that has been reimagined in Disneyland is Soarin' Around the World, which has been rechristened kind of just as a limited time deal as Soarin' Around California. However, Disney has just announced that while the attraction was set to go away, it is actually going to be sticking around until August. So that I believe is only in Disneyland. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah, it's only at Disney California Adventure. It's extended through August 31st, apparently due to guest popularity. Yeah,
which is surprising because when I first went on the ride, I loved it because I think we went on the ride I know exactly. So we went on the attraction for the first time when we went to come visit you guys in 2013. And the attraction, Soarin' Around California, to me, was a great kind of a hype piece for the state of California.
And the whole, and it fits the whole theming of California Adventure because the whole theming, as we watched that video on it when I was up in New York, the whole theming of California Adventure is it's a celebration of all things California. So it's not just Hollywood and stuff. It's also that little area where Soarin' is. It also has I'm gonna butcher the name, but
Golden Gate Bridge.
No, the River Rapids ride.
Kali River Rapids.
Nope, that's an Animal Kingdom. It's Grizzly something.
Grizzly Run or something like that.
Yeah, it's something like that. But that whole it's that whole thing is celebrating a little bit more of the wild California, the rural, rustic, like Woodlands California that a lot of people kind of don't think about when they think about California. So it's absolutely a great advertising segment for the state of California to say like, hey, this is all, California isn't just what you think it is. It's everything else. So I love that part. And I think it fits the theming of that land and California Adventure as a whole. So I could definitely see it saying, you know what, hey, let's keep Soarin' Around the World just in Epcot.
Right.
Because that fits the theming of Epcot to a T. Soarin' Around the World, and Soarin' just over California fits California Adventure, and let's keep them separate so that we can kind of say, okay, just because you've seen one doesn't mean you've seen the other one, right. So that you would go on both attractions. And I think that because when we went to Disneyland a couple of years ago, we walked right by Soarin' because we were like, we're not waiting online to do a ride that we can do at home. Right. So. And I'm sure people in California would think the same thing about coming to Epcot, especially when they can see that the line is twice as long as it is at home.
Right.
There's no reason to go on it. So now, even though you've been on Soarin' over California, you would still have a reason to go back onto Soarin' Around the World.
For sure. Yeah. And it's one of these things where, I remember when we went on it the first, that is the reason that got us interested in going to California and really led to our trip just a couple months later in that same year. And I remember Soarin' Around California at the time when we went to Disneyland didn't really have that big of a line. And I thought it was because people who lived in California were like, we know what California is all about. We don't need to go on an attraction dedicated to it. But I guess it's one of these things where now that it's back, you know, it's kind of a deal where that nostalgia piece kind of kicks in. It's like, oh, what's old is new again, and it's good to see that people are so into it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it was a similar thing when Captain EO returned to Epcot following Michael Jackson's passing, which was an old, old 3D, 4D movie type ride that it could argue that it was one of the worst attractions ever made, but it actually became kind of popular after Michael Jackson's passing when they brought it back, and it stuck around for a lot longer than anybody expected it to.
Was Captain EO? Was he in Captain EO?
Yeah, he was Captain EO.
Oh, yeah.
It was a very weird attraction. Pull up the like there are the whole movie and everything by itself is up on YouTube if you ever want to check it out. It is, if you've never been on it, it is just it is like if Michael Jackson were in a space version of Labyrinth. Like,
oh, weird.
Like it's so crazy. It's like Star Wars meets Jim Henson, and it's really weird.
That is weird. And Steve did mention, by the way, just in case you guys want to check out that video, pretty sure that was the folks over at Defunct Land who do a really good job over on YouTube. If you ever get a chance to check them out, their stuff's incredible. Really good stuff. It'll get you really kind of that, if you're into that Disney history and anything like that. I think it was Defunct Land that we saw that on, right?
Yep, I think so, yeah.
Yeah, that's really,
and we
really
only
good
saw
stuff.
Part one. There were multiple parts of it too. We only saw the first part.
Yeah, that really was, yes. And he does such a good job. Kevin, I wish I had the last name. It does such a good job in finding these old clips and finding these old videos that promote, like when we saw the ride that's in Disney's California Adventure, that's now the one on not Monsters Inc., but it was Crazy Limo or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then they actually showed like Rosie O'Donnell and Drew Carey and a bunch of celebrities going on the attraction and looking like they were having the worst time ever.
Like, you can tell that they are absolutely 100% being paid to do this, yes. And they could not get off that ride any faster. Like,
even Drew, who's like the big part of the ride, was like, this sucks. This is not any good at all. All right, well, moving on to our next thing here, and it's something, we've got to talk about because it's a big story, and it's a little bit of a controversial topic amongst the Disney Twitter. Disney World has raised its prices on annual passes just a couple days ago. They did this in ahead of Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, opening at Hollywood Studios, coming out here in August. And mostly, for the top tier admission for the park, which is the Platinum Plus passes, there is an almost 18% increase, and now costs non-Florida residents is $1,219. And the Platinum passes themselves also went up to $1,119. And we'll go ahead and read all of the different price hikes. Let me see. I don't have them up there. I apologize. Do you have the price increases, Steve?
Yes, I do. Basically, so there are certain passes that are, only for either Florida residents or Disney Vacation Club members, and there's a few more. But basically, so what we're looking at here is I'll go with the higher prices because I think that's crazy. So there are some that are Florida resident prices or DVC prices, that kind of thing. But for the rest of everybody, if you are out of state, not a Disney Vacation Club member, and you want an annual pass, the cheapest you can get is the Platinum Pass, which right now is $1,119. Previously, it was $894.
Wow, that is crazy.
So rounding, if you want to even round up and round down, it went from $900 to about $1,100. So that increase of over $200 is crazy to me.
And that's the Platinum Pass, so that includes? All
So
four parks?
the Platinum Pass is all four parks. So it's the four regular theme parks. You get theme park parking. There are no blockout dates, which is good. You can go 24/7, or 365. You can't go 24/7.
Only on that one day.
Yeah. But you can go any day. There are no blockout dates, anything like that. You do get a few extra things, and you get discounts and that kind of thing. But if
Parking,
and
I'm guessing.
yeah, parking, that kind of thing. With the thing that's crazy to me is that only for another $100 to go up to the Platinum Plus, which is $1,219. That also includes water parks.
So that is pretty cool.
Yeah. So I mean, if it were me, I would have a tough choice deciding between the Platinum and the Platinum Plus, just because with an extra $100, if you are one of those people that comes down often enough, it kind of makes sense to kind of bump yourself up and get those water parks.
Yeah, because I know here in New York, I mean, we have pretty much one game in town, Splish Splash. That's pretty much it. I mean, you can go to the water parks that are in Jersey or in the Poconos, but in terms of like New York, pretty much Splish Splash is it. And I personally am not the hugest fan of it, but if you want to go to a water park, you go, because that's the only park really that's around. So
yeah, and I mean, Splish Splash isn't open year round. So
right.
Hey, if you're coming up from New York in February or March, Splish Splash hasn't been open for a long time. So you want to go to the water parks in February or March, you even just to say, hey, guess what? I went on to a water park.
Right. You go on, you want to post a photo of you kind of in a floaty coming down a slide and ask how's your day going, New Yorkers, to make sure everyone can say, hey,
how's your 3 feet of snow?
Yeah, for sure. Enjoy digging your snow for sure. So yeah, I mean that is a lot. I mean, and I feel like if you're gonna go and buy a pass, you may as well just go for broke and buy the extra $100 at that point.
Yeah, but even still, looking at other passes like the Gold Pass, which is the annual pass that is most popular probably with Disney Vacation Club members and Florida residents, because it is the one with the least amount of restrictions. It does have blockout dates, but those blockout dates are basically the 2 weeks around Easter and around New Year's and Christmas. So
the one that you have, right?
Yeah, that's the one that I have.
Yeah.
So it's like basically the week before and after Easter, and then the week leading up to Christmas, and then after New Year's, and it usually ends like the 4th or 5th of January, which are times when, again, I always say, I never really have any interest in going around those times of year anyway, because it's so packed and crazy. So that is the one that appeals to us. The Silver just has a few more blockout dates. And I think some are over the summer, which being a teacher that helps me absolutely none, because those are the times that I'm more likely to go.
Right.
So just having the Gold Pass was easy for us, but it jumped $90 too. It's now cresting $700 at $699.
It's a lot. Yeah, that's quite a bit. And it was like $590 something in the past, right?
So it was $609. When we had first bought it, it was under $6. It was like $550 or something. But then but with the renewal, I think you still save a decent amount. You save like 15% or something like that. So we won't see, hopefully, that full price increase. But still, it's not as big of a jump. But you're still talking $700 for a park ticket.
And do you go? Does yours include the water parks?
It does not. No, but we get a discount being. I think they give Florida residents and annual pass holders the same kind of discount, which isn't that bad. And I think it's about $70 a person for the water parks for a day, which isn't terrible. You can also get a water park pass. So there's a water park pass by itself for Florida residents that is now $140. So if you go twice, it makes up for it. So that is definitely a good option if you're a Florida resident, because otherwise, if $140 a person versus an extra $500 a person, which is what you would need to pay to upgrade to the Platinum Plus to get water parks, doesn't really make sense for a Florida resident with some of the other stuff that you get. So that being said, either get a ticket once if you're only going to be going once, or suck it up if you're going to go twice, get the water park ticket. There's actually even a water parks after 2 pass that is $90. Yeah, $90 a person.
You may as
which is
well
a
just
little bit
buy the
cheaper.
regular one if that's the case, though.
Yeah, I mean, you could make an argument for the water parks after too, because it's not going to be as bad.
How late do they open?
I think it depends. I think over the summer they might be open till like 7 or 8,
Oh, okay.
because it's not the kind of thing where they can really. You don't really want to be going to a water park after dark.
Right. I always thought as a kid like that'd be the most incredible thing in the world to do, but no, it sure wouldn't. It would be kind of lame and be really cold.
Yeah. So I mean, and you could probably, depending on when the crowds are, you could probably knock out most of the rides in a couple of hours.
Oh, okay.
But there's also the chance that, especially over the summer, that you're going to get hit with a thunderstorm after 2.
Oh, good call.
More likely for that to happen. So it's a trade-off, but I could see the value in it.
And you get both water parks for that price?
Either way, yeah.
Oh, that's pretty cool. That's not bad.
Yeah, so if you get the water parks pass, go to each one once, and you paid for it.
Yeah. See, me, I feel like the one issue I have with these price hikes is that there should have been hey, everybody, July 1st, these price hikes go into effect. Give everyone a chance to go out and buy annual passes.
No, that's exactly why they don't do that.
I know.
Yes, from a guest service perspective, the thing that Disney is known for, you would absolutely expect, hey, by the way, prices are going to increase, or some other sort of hint or something like that. You would expect that. But the reason why they don't do that is because, that being said, the thing with annual passes is you can buy one online at any time, and the clock doesn't start ticking on it as far as your actual year-long pass goes until you come to the park to activate it.
Oh.
So you can sit on that for however long until you come, you can buy it now and sit on it for, however long it takes you to get down to Disney World next.
Because, there probably are going to be quite a bit of price hikes once 2021 rolls around, don't you think?
Yeah, and I'm sure before that even, this one kind of, you can, especially considering the fact that they had also just announced the Galaxy's Edge previews for annual pass holders for Platinum and above. There was you kind of had a feeling that was coming. They're like, oh great, everybody's going to run out and get a Platinum pass. Hey, guess what? Now it's more expensive than it was yesterday. So,
are you going to be going to the preview?
I can't. Not with the Gold Pass.
Oh,
gotcha. I don't think I know anybody that has a Platinum pass. So.
Right, that is tough. What about the silver? There's a silver one too, right?
There is a silver one. So the silver one went up from $479 to $519. The silver one does have more blockout dates though. So there's basically anytime there's some sort of major holiday or something like that. Silver one has. Let me see if I can pull up. Let's see. Nope, that is quite old. But yeah, it's a few more that usually it's sometimes around the summer, other peak times. So if you take a look at a Disney, pricing calendar, and it looks like anytime that there's going to be a peak time, chances are the Silver Pass has blockout dates.
Damn. Do you think that they're going to eventually change the idea behind, the single day tickets should probably be going up as well, right?
I would imagine single day tickets, and the thing. So right now, Magic Kingdom is a more expensive ticket than Epcot, Hollywood Studios, or Animal Kingdom, and I actually kind of mentioned why last when we were talking with Adam. But I could see them raising Hollywood Studios prices to match Magic Kingdom prices because of Star Wars, because of Galaxy's Edge. I could absolutely see that.
Well, and you got to also figure they just did Toy Story Land, which is popular. They're making a mini attraction as well. So they're putting a lot into Hollywood Studios. So it makes sense for them to.
They are. I mean, I think without Galaxy's Edge, it would be hard to justify a price increase.
Yeah, but with it.
With it, yeah, definitely with it. So I actually have it now. So the Silver Pass, let me see here. All right, blockout dates for the Silver Pass. As of right now, run from June 3rd to August 8th, 2019. So
Wow.
as of earlier this month, I wouldn't have been able to go to any of the parks until August 8th. And then from December 19th until January 2nd. So that is a normal time for the Gold Pass as well, so that's not too surprising. But then also from April 4th to the 17th, again, those 2 weeks probably around spring break, and then again from January 1st to the 30th of 2020. So basically it includes the summer then. It's spring break, Christmas, and summer that you can't go with the Silver Pass.
That is tough. Is that the lowest one you can get?
That is the Silver Pass, which is as far as getting the 4 theme parks and the 20% off select dining. And again, this is only for Florida residents.
Right.
So, but that I think there's ones that are like the theme park select, the weekday select, which actually the theme park select didn't have any price changes, but the theme park select is you only get, again, certain times, and the blockout dates are going to be like pretty much, again, comparable. And actually, this is even more. You can't go on the weekends, which is a big thing. It's the weekdays,
wow.
So you can't go on the weekends at all. And then it also follows similar blockouts to the Silver Pass. So, Christmas, Easter, like spring break time, whenever that is, and the summer. And so you can only go during the week, basically between August and May, with the exception of like spring break and Christmas.
So do you feel like this is going to price you out, being a season ticket holder?
It's definitely a conversation that we're going to have about whether or not we want to renew next year.
Right.
And if we want to renew, maybe drop down to the Silver Pass, and just try and get in and kind of say, okay, well, if we're going to go, we have to go before the summer starts and find other things to do. But the thing is that then if we have, friends and family that come down during the summer, we're either going to have to suck it up and, for that time, maybe at that point, then upgrade to the Gold Pass or buy our own tickets, something. And that's kind of the thing that we're kind of, we would have to talk about of, okay, talk to all of our friends and family and go, okay, do any of you guys have any plans to come down to Disney World over the summer? Because if you do, that kind of might impact what kind of ticket we get now. But I think it's too early to tell at this point what we're going to do, but it's definitely something that we probably wouldn't have talked about, because this time it was more or less an automatic thing of, yeah, we're going to renew our Disney passes. But now we might say, okay, well, do we really need the Gold Pass anymore? Can we maybe drop down to the Silver Pass and take a look at that? And
yeah, no, and I mean, I've seen a lot of folks too on Disney Twitter that, folks are saying, hey, that, if they're not Florida residences and they buy the Platinum Pass, hey, this is something we really need to consider. And, it goes now. I mean, if you're a family of 4, right, which is a lot of folks have a family of 4, you're going and you're increasing that amount of money to pretty much $900, legitimately $900 more you'd have to pay for an annual pass to go to Disney World. So it's definitely a lot.
Yeah, and that's not including anything else. It's not including, if you're out of state, unless you're in, Georgia or Alabama or something, or, somewhere close, you're probably flying in, you're probably not driving. So that's airfare. That is hotel accommodations, unless you know someone. That is food and souvenirs and all this other stuff. And with all of that, it starts to add up to, an extraordinary amount of money that I can't really wrap my head around right now.
Yeah, it's a lot. Is there anything else you wanted to kind of touch on before we get on out of here today?
Wow, I think that's been we've had a lot of stuff to talk about. So I think that kind of does it for us here.
The only thing I wanted to quickly touch on was, let's see, the Ken Story piece from the Orlando Weekly about Disney potentially changing their Fast Pass Plus program in Walt Disney World that you had passed over to me earlier in the week. We'll get more into it next week, but do you feel like Disney World would benefit from the Max Pass that's available in California?
I think that without getting too much into it, because again, I could do just by itself Fast Pass a whole conversation about it. I do think that Fast Pass Plus needs a very big overhaul. I don't know if maybe necessarily something like Max Pass, although it's working very well at Disneyland. But Disneyland also has a very different dynamic. So it's what is working for Disneyland might not necessarily translate well to Disney World. But I will definitely say that I desperately think Fast Pass Plus needs an overhaul. It needed an overhaul pretty much since it came out, in my opinion.
We'll leave you guys with that. We'll give you guys a little bit of a teaser, I guess, for the next time that we'll be here. But we are also going to be doing, ways to beat the heat here during the summer, and a couple other things throughout the summer that you can expect here on Disney 101 to get you set for your time in the parks. And also, we'll be getting ready for, Steve, your Disney cruise coming up here in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, actually, in 2 weeks from tomorrow.
There you
go. Getting sail. Very
cool. So we'll have to definitely do a little preview episode on that and be able to talk to you about that when you return. So it's definitely a lot more exciting stuff. Anything you want to say, Steve, before we get out of here today?
Just always, as always, everybody have a magical week, and we'll see you real soon.